This is a beautiful country that's blessed with an abundance of natural resources. From them, we trade. Public welfare should be supported by sound finance. Therefore, banking plays a very significant role in the national financial industry. IDIC strengthens its presence as a trusted institution that promotes and maintains financial system stability. From us, for us. IDIC.
Please welcome to the stage Lana Soelistianingsih, Vice Chairman, Indonesia Deposit Insurance Corporation, LPS.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good evening, everyone. The Honorable Mr. Purbaya Yudi Sadewa, the Chairman of Board of Commissioner of Indonesia Deposit Insurance Corporation, Mr. Didik Madiono, members of the Board of Commissioners of Indonesia Deposit Insurance Corporation, Professor Joseph Stiglitz, Columbia University and Nobel Memorial Prize in Economic Sciences, Professor Iwan Jaya Ajis, Professor Cornell University, our distinguished speakers, Mr. Hans Patuwo, President of Financial Technology, GoTo, Mrs. Martha Sazon, President and CEO, Mynt, Mr. Teddy Alamsyah, Chairman of Indonesia Rural Banks Association, Perbarindo, and all distinguished guests of the networking dinner. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor and pleasure for me as the Vice Chairman of Indonesia Deposit Insurance Corporation, in Bahasa we call it LPS, to welcome you all tonight. On this occasion, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to all of our distinguished speakers, moderators, and participants of the Bloomberg CEO Forum 2023. I would also like to extend my appreciation to the Bloomberg team for their excellence in organizing this event, which gathers CEOs, executives, economists, investors, and government at the international level. Once again, I would like to inform you that today's event marks the second collaboration between IDIC and Bloomberg. Last year, we held the Bloomberg CEO Forum in Bali to support the success of Indonesia G20 presidency. And this year, the Bloomberg CEO Forum is held in Jakarta alongside the 2023 ASEAN Summit as a side event. This event underscores Indonesia's potential to drive economic growth and maintain financial system stability within the ASEAN region. Furthermore, this event develops into prospective sustainable investment opportunities in Indonesia and the ASEAN region. Ladies and gentlemen, in the previous session, we have discussed remarkable ideas on ASEAN infrastructure development, adoption of innovation and technology, and the importance of maintaining sustainability in achieving economic growth. I would like to remind us that it is not enough just to leave things in the discussion forum. What is more important is that we act on what we have discussed today by working on implementing the initiative and ideas. Tonight, as we enjoy our lovely dinner, we will embark on a journey to explore the transformative power of digital innovation and its profound impact on the ASEAN economy. We will explore into three key aspects that are steering our collective progress, including the utilization of artificial intelligence in the education sector, the remarkable potential of Indonesia as a leading electric vehicle battery producer, and the pivotal role of financial technology in eradicating poverty. In particular, we will discuss about how to increase the education quality of the Indonesian human capital in a world where AI persists. The existence of AI should not jeopardize the future labor market. Instead, it should create new opportunities in the labor market. The new opportunities include the vast potential of financial technology and sustainability industry, such as nickel-based batteries for EVs. To conclude my remark, I would like to encourage you to ponder how we can collectively contribute the advance of these critical pillars of digital innovation in ASEAN's economy. Our region has a various array of talent, resources, and creativity, which, if leveraged effectively, can contribute significantly to progress and be recognized internationally. It is only through our collective efforts that we can harness the transformative power of digital innovation, ensuring a prosperous and inclusive future for all our citizens. Together, we will drive our region's economy to a new height through the incredible potential of digital innovation, reaffirming ASEAN as the epicentrum of growth. Ladies and gentlemen, before I end my remarks, allow me to inform you a little bit about the current update of our institution, our IDIC or LPS. Indonesia Deposit Insurance Corporation, as a deposit insurer in Indonesia, has an essential role in to safeguard Indonesia's financial system stability for almost 18 years, since our first year of operation in 2005. We will celebrate our 18th anniversary, Professor Stiglitz, on the 22nd of September. Starting this year onward, under the law of number 4 of 2023, IDIC formally becomes a risk minimizer deposit insurer with expanded authorities, including fund placement for banks and new mandate for conducting insurance policyholder protection scheme. In order to increase the awareness to IDIC or LPS in its program, we are also going to establish regional offices across 5 cities in Indonesia. Right now, we have Jakarta as a current headquarters, but later, since the new capital of Indonesia moved to Kota Nusantara, we are going to have an office over there in Nusantara, and also we will have another offices in Medan, the capital city of North Sumatra, Surabaya, the capital city of East Java, and Makassar, the capital city of South Sulawesi. IDIC makes depositors feel safe to put their money in the Indonesian bank. This trust keeps the Indonesian banking industry resilient from any effect of bank failures in the United States and Europe during the first half of 2023. As our jingle says, probably some of you like to know what kind of our jingle. Yeah, we have our jingle like this. May I sing it? Ku aman ada LPS. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, in English, I'm safe because of LPS. Yeah. Would you like to sing with me again? Ku aman ada LPS. Okay, thank you very much for your attention and have a wonderful dinner. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Please welcome to the stage Hans Patuwo, President of Financial Technology GoTo, and Martha Sazon, President and CEO Mynt, for a conversation with Bloomberg's Olivia Poe.
Thank you for joining us. Now, more than ever, we are looking towards digital solutions to drive productivity, growth, and to create a more inclusive society. Financial technology specifically is a key area in economic development, and if used well, um, can, can be used to spur a major step on the road to eradicating poverty in developing markets. And for companies, it's about creating new revenue streams, unlocking value, and serving their customers better. Now, yet, we might become too attached to technology. As we become too dependent on technology, there are challenges, right? There are going to be risks around, not just in the social sphere, but also in privacy and cybersecurity. So how do we mitigate these risks? Today, I'm so happy to have here with me some of the powerhouses in this sector. Let's start with GCash. Martha, you guys just gave out 100 billion pesos in loans. That's about 1.8 billion USD recently. You know, just crossed that mark. You've also launched a new microloan product. Who are you targeting here, and how do you think it will be a game changer for them?
So, the vision of GCash has always been finance for all, and this is consistent with financial inclusion. So, the target are the people who are excluded. Before I answer your question, the bigger picture here is that before the pandemic, the bank population in the Philippines was only 29%. After the pandemic, it has grown to 58%. So that almost doubled, right? And if you ask the Central Bank of the Philippines, a big part of that would be the e-wallets like us, so that we're able to help underserved get to be financially included. In Southeast Asia, 225 million, in fact, don't have formal financial accounts, and 300 plus million don't have access to formal credit. So that's how big the financial inclusion problem is, or what we call financial exclusion. And so everything that we do in GCash is all about that. At the center of financial inclusion, at the heart of financial inclusion actually, is providing credit and money to people who need it the most. Unfortunately, in the Philippines, around 50% are not credit worthy from a traditional perspective, meaning they don't have enough documents because we don't have national ID rolled out yet. Some don't even have a collateral or IDs, right? In GCash, we do away with collaterals. We don't believe in traditional collaterals. Rather, we use your digital behavior as your trust score or to evaluate your credit worthiness. Um, and that spells a big difference in terms of how we service the underserved and provide loans vis-a-vis the traditional financial institutions. And if you look at the profile now of the borrowers in GCash, they're actually more, I think more than 60% are from the mass DE, mass C2 DE. So that's really the lower end of the pyramid, right? 2 out of 3 are women. So because what we also found out, women are better payers. A lot of women in the Philippines are homemakers, and if you actually empower them and give them money to build their, or capital to build their own business, they are actually more productive, right? 21 to 40 years old comprise around 60% of our borrowers. So it's very different if you compare it to the profile of the banks or other financial institutions. So that's what makes us very happy. And you mentioned about 100 billion, crossing the 100 billion disbursement. Yes, we have, and that's because I think we've unlocked a segment that has traditionally been underserved.
Yeah, it's about giving the money, as you put it, giving the money to those who need it the most, right? Okay, Hans, I want to go to you because GoTo has always talked about using technology to level the playing field and create a more inclusive society. But the truth of the matter is there's always some risk, right? Especially for loans. that there might be some wastage of capital along the way. How do you manage that as a company, and what are some ways you see the lending space evolve as we move forward?
Sure. Thank you so much, Olivia. And that's a fantastic sharing. So I would like to share a little bit about the lending space, maybe specifically about Indonesia. The fact of the matter is that the demand for lending is very high. We have had 10 years of stable government, stable economy, GDP per capita has been increasing steadily. And all of this leads and fuels consumption. Can you guys hear me? Yeah. Okay. All right, can you guys hear me? Okay, let's see. And if we look at this increasing demand for borrowing in this country, at the same time, if we take a look at information published by the Bank of Indonesia, it states that there are almost 100 million Indonesians who are not yet covered in the formal banking sector, so they are unbanked. That is a high proportion in a population of 270 million, of which 190 million are in the productive population. So the question then is, okay, there's a great demand for borrowing, but there's not insufficient supply. And what has happened is that fintechs have come in to fill the void. There are 102 registered P2P players here in Indonesia. And not only that, there are also a lot of, let's say, less savory side impact, where if you take a look at the data from OJK, which is like the regulator here in Indonesia, financial service regulator, since 2017 up until this year, they've closed down about 6,900 financial services companies, of which 80% are online lenders. So what is happening here is that there is tremendous demand for borrowing. There is significant untapped potential. Many companies are coming to fill the void, and some of them maybe not fulfilling the needs in a responsible way. And from where we sit, we see this as an opportunity to provide responsible and prudent lending. Going to your comment on proper usage of capital, I think the days where a company would open up the tap and just take huge amounts of risk, I think those days are far over. We are being very, very prudent. We launched our lending products only fairly recently, and we have started taking with baby steps. So we did micro loans for users who have not been an existing user of the GoTo ecosystem. We start with very small amounts, right? $10, $20, and looking at repayment history and then being very prudent about it. For users who are existing GoTo users, maybe they take a GoCar or ride-hailing service or food delivery service or Tokopedia, buying things from e-commerce, we have a significantly more amount of data. And using those data, we apply a very conservative risk management practices so that we can give them slightly higher credit limits. I think on top of that, we also work with banks. We are funding a lot of the lending through channeling with banks. And when you do that, banks come in and banks have their own set of risk management practices. And through those conversations, through those discussions, then we also become better and better. So net, I think we are growing our lending book. Again, starting off a small base. From Q4 of last year to Q1, we grew the lending book by 40%. And Q1 to Q2, it's grew by about 20%. And so far, the cost of credit has been good. And in Q3, we are in the midst again of another big growth. But all of this never with always keeping the eye on the cost of credit.
Yeah, I think both of you touched on a very salient point, which is there's this huge population of unbanked around, and we need to help that, and we also need to lend money in a very responsible and sustainable way, right? Martha, I hope you can weigh in here. You talked a little bit just now about expanding your audience and targeting the lower socio-economic class. But it's not about just giving away free money, right? So how do we kind of grow in a like responsible and sustainable way?
So our lending business is powered by what we call G-score. That's a data-driven credit scoring model. Um, and what has allowed us to make it a really powerful score is that the GCash wallet is used twice a day by active users every day. So imagine the richness of the data. And, and being a super app, it has a lot of use cases. So we're able to see the regularity of behavior. Even though you don't have a collateral or you're not rich, we would know if you're a good payer by the regularity of, of your behavior, or if you have routine payments or routine movement of money, right? And that allows us to score you, and we get to tier you and customize the right lending product and the right rates and tenor, um, so that we don't also set you up for failure. We don't just lend to anyone, because we know that if we just lend to anyone and we're not helping them, we're just setting them up to fail, right? So, and we've been doing this for the experimentation has been ongoing for 5 years before we started to scale around 1 to 2 years ago. So there's been a lot of work done around this business, and it's very much integrated in our payments business, which is the core of the wallet. And because people are very sticky, they have high loyalty in the GCash wallet, they wouldn't want to lose it. The way we collect is also not on ground. The way we collect is through the wallet. So they pay through the app, right?
Oh.
And start if they forget to pay, we collect from their wallet. And people want to preserve are very protective of their accounts because they use it every day. So so imagine, I think there's mutual benefit to the consumers and to us. And that way, we're able to give chance to people who would normally not have any chance. Recently, you mentioned earlier about us further bringing down the types of products that we are offering. We recently launched what we call Sacto loans, or really micro or nano loans. Um, and that brings down the loanable amount to up to just $2. And what we're targeting here are the everyday loans, which the banks wouldn't even pay attention to, right? But what you see is that um, the the mass, or those who are struggling, actually live by the day. They struggle to make ends meet, and and the type of their income is actually per day. Not everyone earns monthly or earns every 15 days, right? Some of these people, especially when you're like a construction worker, you earn every day. So, and that's also consistent to the phenomenon in the Philippines, which is predominantly known as a sachet economy. So little amounts, you see like ketchups in sachets, shampoos in sachets, so even lending. So people spend little amounts, but they do it very frequently. And the volume also is very high. So that's the thinking behind it.
Right. Nice. Hans, do you have anything to add about, KIC or anything like that?
Look, it really resonates. Yeah, it really resonates. Living, day by day in terms of cash flow, micro loans, all of it really resonates. It feels like there's a lot of similarities between the Philippines and Indonesia.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, let's broaden this a little then. Both of you offer not just lending, but a whole suite of financial products, right? So I want to touch on that a little bit too. Hans, Gojek has come a long way since its call center days. Now GoTo, you just launched the GoPay app here 50 days ago. How do you see all these products working together, right? What is the end goal here?
Sure. Look, I think the end goal that we have spent time to talk about is we want to increase the balance sheet of every Indonesian. What does that mean, and why balance sheet? right? Because precisely as has been shared by Martha, many of the common Indonesians, everyday Indonesians, don't have much of a balance sheet, right? They live on a cash basis, on a weekly basis, on a daily basis. And this happens to the vast majority of Indonesians. And when there isn't enough balance sheet, when their assets are insufficient, because there's not enough savings, etc., what happens is that you can lead a very responsible life, but once or twice a year, something happens to you, right? Your child needs to go to school, somebody falls sick, and because you don't have enough assets as an individual or as a family, it just wipes you out. It's not that they are not credit worthy, but there's just not enough assets, and you make life-changing decisions to fulfill that short-term liquidity crunch. Right? You sell your motorbike, which changes your life. You relocate, you move in with your parents, and these things then stunt or lowers the floor in the potential of the family or the individual to thrive. So that's what we're trying to go for. And if you are going to do that, say, okay, cool, sounds good, but what does that really mean? And the way that we are thinking about doing that is by helping every Indonesian with everything that they need to do with their money. Okay, super broad. What exactly does that mean? I think we do 6 things with our money, right? If I go back to my grandma, God bless her soul, the first thing that we do is we pay, right? I pay for something. Payments means pay to merchant. Right? I buy something. I buy a bar of soap. I buy some rice. Okay. Next thing that we do is we move money, otherwise known as transfers. Right. So I'm not paying to a merchant. I move this money to my brother, my sister, etc. The third thing she would do with her money is put it underneath her bed, right? Which is savings, very relevant to the sponsor of LPS Ibu. Then after that, when you have once in a while, something will happen and they'll need to borrow. That's 4. Now, once we have sufficient, a little bit of assets, then we will try to grow. Back then, it's buying gold. Right now, you could, well, I do not recommend crypto, super risky, but now there's a whole host of asset classes to grow. And then last but not least, when you have some assets, you try to protect, which of course is insurance. So those are the 6 things that we want to try to help the average and every Indonesian to do. Now, going further into this, right? If you think about how does this actually help to increase the balance sheet of an Indonesian, let's take transfers for example. I think what we realize is that many of our users in GoTo ecosystem are relatively affluent, right? Because in order to pay for the food delivery or to buy something from Tokopedia. And for the affluent segment, payments is a thing, right? Because we have money and we want to spend. But for the mass market, payments is not a thing because you're living day by day. So what we found to be really powerful is transfers. Because what happens in transfers is liquidity, right? Let's say the 3 of us are living day by day. I suddenly have a need that once or twice a year. The first thing I do is I call Martha, please lend me some money. Olivia, please lend me some money. And that is transfers. It's liquidity. Right? It's making the limited amount of capital that exists in you and your social circle work even harder. And of course, savings is obvious and so on and so forth. So that's step by step of what we're trying to do. Together with the launch of the GoPay app, which is why we've made transfers a critical core use case in the GoPay app. And from that, we will also do acquisition, both of users as well as data, which is then used for credit scoring, which then goes back into lending and so on and so forth. Hope that answers the question.
Yeah, it does. I mean, you talk about all the 6 different pillars. I think, Martha, you guys have a whole suite too, G-Invest, G-Savings, G-Insure, G-Funds, among others. How do you, and Fintech is a lucrative business also, right? Like cross-selling and all that. How do you make sure your interests as a company to make money is aligned with that of your users?
Well, let me correct you on that.
Okay.
There are very, very few fintechs who are profitable in the world. You can count it with your hand. So notwithstanding that though, there's a way to make it more financially sustainable, and I guess like GCash is one of those. profitable fintechs, but a big part of the fintech players are still struggling to really make it and survive, right? So um, in our case, I think similar to GoPay, we offer a whole slew of financial services. We have lending, we have GSave, we have savings marketplace, and investment, insurance, and most recently, we just launched trading inside our app. The key to it is really to drive scale. We don't, the unit economics is not that big, right? But you go for scale. And in terms of cost, we also leverage on economies of scale. So uh, it's the volume that helps drive us to positive and I guess a good level of margin, right? Now, in terms of, so I think that answers your question on making it like more fair and sustainable and sticking to the purpose, which is the vision, which is finance for all. And the way we run our business, of course, we have the purpose, which is making Filipinos' everyday lives better. But our like everyday statement in our company is, you know, there's good business in doing good. I don't know how many companies have realized that, but um, the more the more I spend time running this company, the more I realize that, you know, just use that as your guiding principle. Keep doing good. Look for the pain points of our customers. Look for the um, friction in the experience in their everyday lives and see how we can help them. And when we build it, they will come and they will stick to you as long as they see that you are sincere in helping them. Um, Gcash has been touted as the most loved brand. Just recently, in one of the surveys that we've seen, we're now the most loved brand in the Philippines. It used to be one of the fast food chains, right? They're still up there, but we were so surprised that, you know, Gcash has even become a verb. They call it i-Gcash mo na yan. I'll Gcash you, meaning I'll pay you with Gcash. Um, we don't have big marketing budgets, but word of mouth has been really prevalent because they see the value. So once you provide value in the lives of the people you serve, I think um, loyalty is there, and it will just go back to you.
Very well said. Um, yeah, we don't have that much time left, but yeah, I want to end off with a more forward-looking question. I think, Mara, there's a lot of talk about, you know, Gcash preparing for IPO. Um, do you have anything to say about that? Are there any updates?
I feel like I'm in an analyst briefing. um, our goal is to make our company push button ready for IPO by end of the year. But we also recognize that the market um, is not ready yet, right? We don't want to go public when it's not a good environment. So in the meantime, we focus on growing the business further. There's a lot of things to do. There's still a lot of underserved customers out there. Um, in spite of the successes we've had, we still feel that the journey is far from over. And that also tells us that there's still a lot of room to grow.
Yeah, definitely. I think room for growth is one. How you seeing or what you excited about in growing the company, and what are you excited about over the next 5 years?
Super excited. This feels like a very serious crowd, so I wouldn't jump up and down. 2 points. One is the the fintech space in Indonesia has grown rapidly over the past few years, but even so, the real penetration into everyday Indonesian life is still fairly limited. If we compare to other countries, notably China, there's so much more opportunity that we can, and so much more value that we can bring to people's lives. So I really echo that sentiment as well. There's a lot of journey ahead. So the level of penetration in Indonesia is still fairly nascent. Lots of upside, huge potential. Now, a second reason why I'm so excited is, we just launched a standalone GoPay app about 50 days ago. When we started GoPay back in 2016, there was absolutely no ambition of becoming a big fintech player or etc. Very basic. We had Gojek drivers and we had users. Users had to pay the Gojek drivers with cash, and there was a friction in getting change, right? And the Gojek drivers would feel, if they didn't have the right change, they always felt like, oh, will the customer think that I'm trying to take advantage of extra 1,000, 2,000 rupiah, which affected their dignity and self. That's how it started, 2016. And for many years, that was all that we were. I think 2021 was a big step when we took all the fintech businesses in what was back then Gojek, and we make it under this, what we call GoTo Financial. And then we started the steps to think about, hey, what can we do more? And not just as an embedded payment method, as an embedded wallet within Gojek app, and also within Tokopedia. So finally, the GoPay app is live. I'll be honest, it was not what we had initially envisioned. When we did a lot of on-the-ground research and tier 2 cities, tier 3 cities, what we realized was our initial idea was building an app for Jakarta, right, or for south side of Jakarta. So we ended up taking out a lot of content, right, just stripping it down to something that was really, really usable. The take-up rates and the download rates over the past 50 days has been really, really encouraging. And so from humble beginnings, in a market that's still nascently penetrated, we now have a platform, we now have a standalone app that we can then use to drive to hopefully achieve our aspiration. Thank you.
Thank you. Martha, what are you excited about over the next 5 years in the fintech space?
Well, I'm excited about tapping the remaining 40% of financially excluded Filipinos. At the same time, shifting our focus to financial progress for those who have already been included. That means introducing financial services to them. And we're excited by the results so far. Like 1 in 4 of the savings accounts are created through GSave. So we see that people are responding well, and that increases literacy, financial literacy, that leads to financial progress, and then financial freedom later on, right? So particularly in terms of types of business, of course, lending, because that's the heart of financial inclusion, really. When you have fair access to funds, especially for those who really need it the most, and so that finally we can eliminate loan sharks, right? And so we can provide fair lending for all. I think we've barely tapped the market, really. Even at 100 billion, I don't think we've really covered covered enough opportunity yet. The other one is international, and that's about serving Filipinos wherever they are in the world. There are 10 million Filipinos living abroad. 2 million of them are overseas foreign workers. So far, we've already we know in our system that we've already participated in serving half of the OFWs abroad. Recently, we launched what we call global pay and GPay and overseas. So global pay is about allowing your GCash to be used and to pay for services outside the country. So we're present in several countries, and that's where Ant Financial and Alipay is helping us. You can now use your app to pay just by scanning the QR codes. So a lot of Filipinos got so excited, especially since I think there's a travel boom, right? So when they went to Japan, they were like posting on social media, hey, I can use my GCash abroad. And it makes them feel proud, really. And we have the cards also, the Visa card that allows Filipinos to use their GCash to pay anywhere in the world, as long as it's a Visa merchant, they can use GCash to pay. But the bigger thing is we are on a sandbox with the Central Bank of the Philippines, where we've recently piloted allowing local overseas numbers to be enrolled as GCash accounts. So we're currently doing it in US, Canada, UK, Italy, Australia, Japan. So, and we know that these countries have overseas foreign workers and even migrants. So as long as you prove your connection to the Philippines, you can create an account and you can easily remit. It takes away the friction in remittance, and in the Philippines, that's a very big activity. But more than that, it's the heartwarming stories that we see here on the international front. Example is, we would normally hear about issues like OFWs trying to earn their keep and sending money to the Philippines, and then hoping that when they get home, they can enjoy the money and the wealth with their family. But when they get there, they see that their family have different families already, or the money has been spent. So those are heartbreaking stories that we used to hear. But with GCash now, it allows them to pay, because they can have their own GCash even while they're abroad. It allows them to pay for electricity bills, or to even buy their favorite Chicken Joy and send it to their loved ones, or surprise them with grocery that's bought from their neighborhood convenience stores. So these behaviors and these stories that we hear from the OFWs, from the overseas foreign workers, really warms our heart and inspires us to do even more. So that's on the international front. There's more, of course, like enabling businesses, but I think the two big focus areas that really excites us are those that really serve the underserved, and that's lending and international.
All right, I'm looking forward to watching you guys create a more inclusive society for all. Okay, thank you for joining us. Thank you for being so insightful and candid today. All right, thank you.
What a great conversation. Thank you all for joining us at the Bloomberg CEO Forum at ASEAN Gala Dinner. It's been a fantastic evening. Thank you, big thank you to Hans and to Martha for such an interesting conversation. And of course, we'd like to thank our founding sponsor, Indonesia Deposit Insurance Corporation, LPS, for making this evening possible. If you'd like more information from LPS, please visit the Resources tab on the event website. And of course, we want to thank all of you for being such a fantastic and engaged audience. Give yourself a big round of applause. We've now got something completely different and very special. We're going to take you on a brief tour of Indonesia through dance, starting in Aceh. You'll travel through time to meet the Betawi, the ancestors of many of you, if you happen to live here in Indonesia, in Jakarta today. You'll experience a mother's love for her child and hear about the singer who will lay down his life for the Indonesian nation. And we'll finish up on the island of Bali with a dance called The Beauty of Indonesia. Please enjoy.